we would like to welcome Patrick Green to the Taipei European School. Patrick is a consultant who's helping us in the school's first ever Digital Wellness Week. So thanks very much for coming, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you.
We are the Bears, and we have a little gift for you.
Fantastic.
Have you heard of Le Boubous?
I have not.
They're very popular, but not as popular as a Le Bear Bear, which is this one.
All right, well, very good.
Thank you. You're very welcome. So Patrick is helping us as a school, helping the school to understand a little bit about more how we can become more healthy with our relationships with digital social platforms. And you've been working this week with the staff, the students and the parents. I've been to a couple of sessions. They're really, really engaging and interesting. And so on behalf of the school, we'd like to thank you for coming and helping us this week.
Well, thank you. It's really been fun to be here. I think I've seen everyone at this
I
point.
think you have.
No, I've got 2 elementary grades still to see tomorrow.
So we've got a few questions for you. So for some of the parents and students that weren't able to go to all the sessions, and there's a lot of interesting sessions you've been talking about. You've met the high school students, the middle year students, the primary students, and talk about lots of different things. I think some of the parents would be interested to get an overview on how their children and themselves have been engaging with you this week on the well-being side of the digital realm. So I've got a few questions for you.
Okay.
And we're going to start off with digital learning. How do you see digital learning, digital citizenship, and digital wellness connecting together for a school community like TES?
Yeah, well, I think they are all connected. If we just start with sort of digital wellness, I like to kind of think of that as making healthy decisions around our devices. You know, for teens, that's going to be mostly phones, but also laptops. With our younger students, it might be the actual school devices, but it also is probably the devices they've got at home, their iPads, their tablets, whatever parents have handed to them. And it's really about how do we make sure that those are impacting our lives either neutrally or hopefully in positive ways, and making sure that we are not allowing sort of the negative components to affect us. And I think digital wellness is a component of digital citizenship. Digital citizenship is really a lot of those things about like how do we interact online, but also like how do we keep ourselves safe, privacy, and it's quite a big thing. So when I'm talking digital wellness, I'm mostly talking about how to maximize the good stuff of these devices and minimize the bad stuff, and as far as like how we're feeling at the end of the day. And then how that fits in with sort of technology use in classrooms, well, hopefully the digital wellness part is already considered, that we're not using devices in ways that would harm us anyway. And so I think that's a little simpler, but actually one of the ways that digital wellness can connect with that is that when we think about, like, our phones can be distracting. And so we don't want our devices that we're using to learn also to be distracting. But when I talk with students, of course, they have some good strategies. So many students actually here told me, I actually put my phone in the other room while I'm doing my homework because I recognize my phone. One of the negative things about it is it can distract me from doing the work I need to do. And so students might not use the word digital wellness, but I think especially our teenagers, are quite aware of it, and they're making decisions so that they don't receive the negative potential impacts.
Okay. So as technology changes and gets more advanced, what skills do teenagers need to prepare for in their future studies and careers?
Now that's a good question that I've got an answer for.
Okay.
And that is self-management.
Self-management.
Self-management is that skill that they need for their future. It's actually what you'd see if you went to LinkedIn. You're going to see a number of skills that people are hiring for right now. But one of them that's going to pop up in any of these places like LinkedIn or other studies where we're future casting, we're looking at what students need. People need to be able to know themselves and be able to put themselves in a position to do their best work.
Yeah.
And actually that's essentially today, for people who live online and offline, it is figuring out how to not let these devices take us away from the work that we want to be doing. And so there's a number of ways that we can think about that, but the self-management is knowing myself and how to set myself up for success. For some students, that's going to be, I know that I need music without lyrics to drown other things out so that I can really focus. That might be part of self-management for that kid. For some of those kids, as I already mentioned, I'm gonna put my phone in the other room so that I'm not tempted to play a quick game of Clash Royale or text my friends or reply to the whatever notification I get. And so it really is, especially like with people today working remotely as well and not being sort of doing, I mean, there are traditional jobs out there, but there's also sort of hybrid jobs and there's remote work. And if you're doing that sort of work, you have to know how to set your space up to not distract you from being a problem solver and doing some critical thinking. And so that's it. It is self-management.
Very, very true. Now, we mentioned very briefly, digital citizenship is a massive topic. I'm going to try and dig down and get a couple of ideas about what it is to be a good digital citizen. Is a phrase we hear often. What does that mean for a student in practical terms? How can they be a good digital citizen?
Yeah. I like to think of digital citizenship as an extension of all of the values that we already have, that we think about in the real world. And so if you start with young kids and we think about, we want them to be able to walk across the street safely. So how do we keep ourselves safe online would be the digital citizenship side of that. How do we treat other people, right? We want to be kind. We don't want to push other people down. Well, how do we be kind and not push other people down online? And that would be digital citizenship. Actually, for a lot of our young people, it's dealing with the drama that happens online. And especially if we're not having conversations with students and actually supporting them in figuring that out. Because sometimes what we talk about offline doesn't necessarily transfer to online. Online is different. There's more anonymity and there's this disinhibition effect where because we're not sitting in the same room, I might say something, but I wouldn't say to you if you were right here.
Yeah, exactly.
So we want to engage students in that conversation, but ultimately that skill is like, how do I stand up for others online? How do I make sure that everyone's being treated equal online? I shouldn't be a bystander and see these things. And that's actually one of the things that kids really do have difficulty with, because there is going to be some meanness or some bullying that they see online, and really knowing when and how to speak up and help one another can be difficult.
And is there any way that parents at home can sort of help their children in that side of dealing with those kinds of issues? They're seeing them on digital, online, social media, but in the home, what can a parent do to try to help their children?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we have to, as parents, realize that our younger kids aren't going to be online as much as the older kids. But that means that it's gonna increase and increase and increase. And so if we start trying to talk about online and offline in all of our family conversations, and we include online life as part of what we talk about, that can really set the stage to keep those conversations going when they get a little trickier.
Okay.
And so I encourage parents, I mean, sometimes I would even joke about it, like, just tell your kid one of the things you like about your phone, because actually kids hear adults talk about a lot of the negatives about these things. And so that's not really opening a dialogue. And if we actually talk about, there are positives and negatives, just right there, like, because our teenagers will absolutely tell you there are also negatives.
Yeah.
But for them, there's also these positives. And so they need to hear that from us. We need to bring a more balanced approach to actually an honest approach, which is that, yeah, I like Instagram because it makes me feel like I'm more connected with my friends. I know what's going on in their life. I can understand that as an adult. And here's the drawback of Instagram. Sometimes I lay in bed and I keep scrolling even though I know my sleep is being impacted, and I'll be happier tomorrow if I put it away. But if we can't talk about both sides of things, then we're not really having a conversation. We're just sort of saying, this is bad, put it away. And eventually, a kid might not be listening to that.
So the students, they would probably notice certain habits and ways they're using social media or digital devices. How do they know when it's potentially harmful for themselves? Like, they're able to see that and see those flags, those red flags?
Well, I think if we give them a language for it, when I talk with the high school students, I'm helping them to understand some of the tricks that the games and apps are using to try to keep our attention. Mm-hmm. I mean, those games and apps don't want us to put them down. They're making money the more time we spend in them. And so if we can kind of unveil some of that, I recognize not everyone can do that, but if we kind of shine a little bit of light on that, well, teens can also see that, and teens don't want to be tricked. They don't want to fall prey to those sorts of things. And yet, they also want to be online with their friends. So I think giving them a language, what I talked with the elementary school students about today was actually like thinking about how does it make you feel? Like, that's one way to know, when should I put this device down? Well, if it's making you feel like you're angry, right? Like, that's a good time to put it down. Yeah. If you're using it until you're sleepy, that's a good time to think about our feelings. And I know that seems kind of simple, but actually, if we would all do that, that's quite helpful, right? Like, if I'm comparing myself to these other really good-looking people, but I keep looking at their photos, because one of the things that teens will struggle with is comparison. Yeah. Because they're seeing this perfection online. No one's posting a photo of them having a bad day.
Exactly, yeah.
And so they're comparing themselves to other people's perfect, which is a tough world to be in. Well, I know teens that are like, once they understand that, we bring that up to them. The comparison is one of the biggest deals. They're like, okay, yeah, there's some people I follow that I don't want to follow anymore because it doesn't make me feel good.
And in the classroom, we've got the teachers using technology on a daily basis. I mean, obviously the staff need to be able to protect their own digital wellness. What can staff and teachers do to try and keep a balance for themselves in this realm?
Well, I mean, I think classroom technology is a little different than social media in that no one's kind of going to want to continue to look at a PowerPoint all night long and skip sleep for it. But
the right teacher will.
Okay. But I do think when an adult is thinking about their own use, that can slide into the negative. Again, it could be simply like, how does it make you feel? But if I were to give you something a little more concrete, we want to make sure that these devices are not taking the place of physical activity, face-to-face relationships, and sleep. And that's the same for kids and adults. And so if as adults we're finding like this is difficult to stop doing or put down, we want to acknowledge that and then figure out what to do. And so one of the things that we can do as an adult, and I've seen a number of people do, is they actually delete the problematic app from the phone. They can still use it on their laptop, but it just puts a little bit of friction, a little distance, a little disruption. Some people might even just experiment with, like, I'm gonna put that app, swipe, folder, like deep into the phone, or remove it completely and make themselves use the web version, which is just not quite as fun. Yeah. And so I talk about with high schoolers this concept of creating some friction in your habits. And so if you have a problematic app, one way to create some friction is to move it. Like, just move it from where it used to be. So, because you probably have a habit of opening it up and going straight there. Yeah. And so there's a number of things we can do. And actually, if we as adults would experiment with some of these things, we could then coach kids on it as well.
Awesome. And if you were to, I'm going to ask you to sort of say one key thing that all of us can do, adults, children, to try to help our digital wellness, what would that be?
I'm going to give you two.
Give me two.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a double bonus for us.
I'm going to give you two because the number one is so difficult for people. Number one is we should remove the devices from our bedrooms at night. From 0 to 150, like no adult is actually receiving benefits from having the phone. No kid is having benefits from having the phone possibly impact their sleep. And so we should remove those. Now I know a lot of people don't want to do that. So something smaller that you could do is you could sort of reclaim your boundaries by tweaking your notifications. Healthy people have boundaries. These phones make it so that we can respond to everyone else's wishes and ideas right away.
Yeah.
And so we get into this world where, I got a notification, I got to respond. I got an email, I got to respond. Well, actually, no. You could say, I'm actually going to turn off email notifications because I'm not doing email all day long. I'm doing email at these hours of the day. And other times I'm not available on email. And you can do that for your text messages as well. Now I know you don't want to turn off your notifications from your children, maybe from your spouse. Well, that's fine. You can keep those on. But you can turn off all of these apps that are not humans. You can make it so that you're not getting as disrupted and you're having some boundaries.
Okay. So those are two very important items. Get more sleep, keep the phone out of the bedroom, and make things more difficult for you to get in. And that kind of continual bing, 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 bing.
Yes.
I mean, adults get it a lot.
Yeah.
And you do feel inclined to go and answer, but you don't have to. One final question, whilst we've got you here. We're moving into the age of AI and immersive technology. What do schools and students need to think about with this new, even more impressive technology that can be very useful, but it could also be a little bit harmful?
Well, I was going to say we should just put this question in ChatGPT and see what it tells us. But I don't think that probably works. I think the answer is because we don't know how this is going to keep changing, we've got to continue to ask questions. And I think one of the groups that we can ask questions to are the students. There's going to be some things we want to tell them, but we also want to be asking them, how are they using this? How is it impacting their lives? It might impact them differently than it does us. And because it's so new, we want to be aware of that. I ask students questions about digital well-being because I know they have some strategies I've never considered. And every school I go to, I will learn a new strategy. So when it comes to AI, I think, well, that's probably the way to go. Like we're learning about it, and we're asking students how they're perceiving things and what they're understanding and feeling, and that'll put us in a position to best support them through these changes.
I think one of the things that comes out from the presentations that you've been giving is that conversation is a massive, and it's one of the key things that can help parents and students get through these situations together, and to make sure there's no judgment. The parents are just a place for their kids to approach, a safe haven when things may be too much for them digitally. They can approach the parents take a calm, supportive role, and not, oh, you're doing this. And don't try and give too much, don't give advice, just listen and let the conversation develop as it develops. Parent, child, however they want to take it. Would that be a fair comment for our parents to take forward as well?
Well, I think so. I think for many of us, we do quite a bit of telling, and we could do less telling if we just asked. And we might actually hear from them that they already know some of the stuff, which now we can do less telling, and if they might actually listen to the one thing we do add, because we're not giving them 10 things. But also allows us to know them better And when we are going to set boundaries for these young people. And when you design anything for someone else, you have to understand their experience to best design the solution. So asking those questions creates the empathy and gets us in a better spot.
And each child, even within a family, can be entirely different. So you might have to deal in slightly different ways. So conversation is the only way to know which way that child would need help. Okay, well Patrick, thank you so much for coming. We wish you the very best moving forward. We're going to be working with you as a school in the future. We've still got two more days left, so there's lots of new stuff to learn from you. And I know from the parents that have been at your sessions already and the students that come to the sessions, they've learned an awful lot. And it's about an approach rather than do this, do that. And I think that's really, really brilliant for our community. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the folks who have been coming to the sessions, because it's typically one size fits all does not work. But when parents come together and can share the strategies they've been trying, someone might actually have a strategy that could work for you at this time with that kid. And so that's really helpful, keeping those conversations happening in the community.
Okay, thanks very much.